conversations do always just start like this one.
Right.
Hey everybody, welcome to Creative Conversations of David and Donna. I'm David.
And I'm Donna.
This is Creative Conversations of David and Donna.
As you just said.
Yeah, I haven't made that joke since the first episode, so I wanted to jump it in real quick.
Oh, I think it's extremely important that you throw things back in.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's funny, but...
See, I just said absolutely. Wow.
Wow.
We're just reliving old times.
Back, taking it back to our roots.
Yes.
We're only 12 episodes in and we have to go back.
I said 12.
I almost said only. 12's a lot.
I have to tell you, I looked at YouTube and we have a 2 months ago. 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah, 2 months
It's all
ago.
been saying, yesterday, 7 days ago, a month ago. And I'm like, well, we've been posted for about a month. And then I looked at it and said 2 months ago. I'm like, I was excited.
It's very exciting. Our Fake Rate episode that we uploaded, when this comes out, it's been 2 weeks ago. That right now has the second most views. Our most viewed is our first episode.
Right.
But the Fake Rate is the first one to reach that level. It's at like 70 now, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, first one to reach that level in a while. So that's really, really cool. I'm posting on Instagram a lot more. I haven't told you because you're not really... you don't have Instagram, so you don't see it, but I have been posting on Instagram a lot, following their advice that we got from the Fake Rate episode, and they've been posting in response to it. I just uploaded our interview with Swear Engine today, and they both posted about it. So very cool things. We get more followers and
help each other.
Help each other out. Yeah, it's very cool. Something I had to get over for a second. I was a little insecure whenever I would post something about our Fake Rate thing, and I'm like, she's gonna repost that, and then people are gonna click on our profile and see that we don't have as many followers. And I was like, stop it. It's fine.
Exactly. You have to start somewhere, which is what we constantly preach. I mean, we're going to look back when we have 200 episodes and go, wow, remember we were excited about having 12?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You know. By the way, I think if that fades off right now, we're recording at the mic and it like kind of fades off. I think it keeps recording if it goes off.
Oh,
I bet it does.
I found that interesting because when it was my phone, it took much longer. Do we want to check it and see, or what?
Let's see.
Let's see. What do we?
Yep, it's recording.
All right, so we just let it go off.
Yeah, just let it go.
Okay.
You don't gotta tap it every 5 seconds. I saw you all the time when you were doing that, and I was like,
well, you did it first. So.
Yeah, you're right. I did, but it's good. It's all good. Testing a theory.
We're learning new technology today. I almost called you my son's name. I did call you my son's name. Anyway, David has a new phone. And what kind of phone is this?
I don't know, 11.
Ooh,
it's the newest one. 11. Yeah.
So does it have those weird camera things? Let me look at the back.
I think so.
Oh yeah. I've seen some people talk about that in my class. I'm like, that looks stupid. So they don't like the new phone look.
I mean, like, it's okay. I don't know how I feel about the not having a home button, but it's a big screen and that's cool. And when I'm watching my Star Trek, it's really nice, much better on this screen. And watching my westerns.
Another reference to a earlier episode, but then we have a new topic today. So David has discovered that he loves westerns.
I love westerns. I mean, I've always known I love westerns, but like Quentin Tarantino, one of my favorite directors, he made this movie a couple years ago that I never actually saw called The Hateful Eight, and it was a western, and I never saw it. I don't know why. And he just recently released something on Netflix, like an extended cut, and it was like a mini series, and it added in a bunch of stuff that got cut out, so kind of doubled the length of the movie basically, and broke it into episodes. And I was like, that sounds really cool, like a really cool format to do that, because I love mini series. I think it's a great balance between a movie and a TV show that's way too long, and 4 to 8 episodes of stuff. 4 to 8 episodes of stuff is just, I've always found as a really great place for TV shows to be really good. Like Breaking Bad was like 10 episodes a season, or no, it was 15, something like that. It was like that's it. So I watched that and I was like, wow, I don't really like this movie that much, but I really like I like the western aspects. I like everything. I love westerns. I've always loved westerns, and I got back into it. Then I started playing this game, Red Dead Redemption 2, again. I played it previously, and I love that game. I love the story that comes with it, and it's actually, it's really epic. It's an epic. I love Western epics, these tales of, like, the journeys and the hardships that they went through, and, there's this TV series called, like, Into the West that I remember I watched as part of a social studies class, and it's just this long, like it's long, and I love westerns that are long because like it has this feeling of like, yeah, it took forever to walk from one side of the country to the other, so it's like these long shows about people making those journeys and the stuff they went through doing that, and I really think western is a genre that I wish I saw more of nowadays, because that was a big deal. Spaghetti westerns, filmed in Italy, and that was a big deal, and I wish I saw more of that. So I have a new goal in life. I was telling a former guest of ours, DCITM, about it. I'm going to write and produce a western. No idea what it's going to be yet. I have a Google Docs open that says western, and that's all I got. But I'm going to get there.
So every genre always cycles back around, and so what will be your twist?
My twist on the western, like what makes this western different from other westerns?
I mean, does the setting pretty much have to be the same for it to be called a western? Does it have to be in the Old West?
No, I wouldn't say so, because there, that's a good point, because there are plenty of films and all sorts of stuff that's like, this feels like a western, but it's, like this movie called Logan. It takes place in the future, and it's about a superhero called Wolverine, but that's a western movie, and I'd love to do a twist. I thought about, like, what if it's a post-apocalyptic, like Mad Max. Mad Max is a western.
Yes.
But that does not take place in the Old West. Something like that.
Well, a lot of people actually consider the first Star Trek series very western. Just the way they were exploring new places and the way they handled the situation.
The vibes of it on. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I've heard that said quite often, actually.
Yeah.
So you could set your western in space, but then you'd be too much like Star Trek.
Ooh, space westerns.
I got it.
What?
Remember you were talking about discovering what was under our water? Exploring the ocean. So you have an ocean western.
What if it's like, so it's like fish people?
Well, I don't know if it has to be fish people. Like we need more places to live on our planet because of whatever reason. Of course, the ocean is just polluted as the land, but maybe we're just trying to live underwater now, and people are fighting for the different rights of the areas.
It'd have to be like, we're underwater, and it's like we can breathe there comfortably. We have technology, let's just do that now.
Or we build. You could build domed cities. Underwater.
Big dome cities. So like. And to get from one city to another, you like hop in your submarine, like it's a horse, and then you're going. You get big submarine battles, and it's dangerous because it's not like you can't. You have to stay in your submarine. You can't just I see what you're saying, and then you get to the dome city, and then I like that.
So the sheriffs of the rival dome cities, they have the standoff.
And then there's the big dome city mining towns, and there's a gold rush over at one of them, and all sorts of stuff and one of them's a big city, and I could see that being a thing. And the wildness of it is the submarines running, instead of horses, submarines running around the barren.
And then you add in, instead of buffaloes or things like that, you have like ocean creatures that are bigger than the dome city itself.
And we can have all sorts of sea life that we don't know is even there yet. Do you believe in the giant squid?
Well, I've seen things where they have what they call a giant squid, and then they show how it was actually just a whale, that different parts of it had been like decayed, and so I don't know what to think. I think there are definitely life forms under the ocean, things that we've never explored, because they've actually found some pretty weird stuff, and they'll show it in these little specialized videos on YouTube, and you're just looking at it going, wow. Or you're looking at it going, hey, I drew that when I was 3. You know what I'm saying? Like it looks like a child's drawing. It's just so unreal to what we're used to. There's some pretty cool stuff down there.
Scientists are finding new species all the time. Every 5 freaking seconds, it's like, hey, we found a new type of spider, which at some point I'm kind of like, okay, are they the same freaking spider but a different color? Can they just be spiders? And this one looks like this. Like, we're all humans, like. It's like, you have to be a different species than me? Are you not human because you don't look? I don't know. I know that there's scientific reasons to it. It's just at a certain point I was like, I see a couple of these things and I'm like, is that really a new species, or do you just want your name in a journal somewhere,
exactly.
Mr. Scientist Man?
Yes.
That is nothing. Westerns.
We get back to westerns, yes.
Creative conversations.
Yes. So we'll move away from the Dome City idea.
The Dome City. I was thinking apocalyptic, but then I realized, Mad Max, right? It's not really a twist. Dome City, I've never...
See?
thought of that, or I don't think I've ever seen that done before. Like, well, Dome City's obviously yes, but like Dome City Western, I don't think I've ever really seen that done before.
There we go.
I don't know what other twist it could be, because there's space westerns are that's been done many times. Also, maybe like a
maybe just even a twist on some of the standard characters. So you have the sheriff, and you were saying the priest earlier, and there's always the rugged woman, you know, that can handle herself.
I can handle myself. Yeah.
So you could find variations or twist, like do opposite, like have a woman sheriff or something.
Yeah, woman sheriff, and there's some little things you throw in there, maybe. The priest, a cool twist on the priest is that the priest is actually like the most amazing gunslinger in the world, and he's cool, but that's been done many times. There's all these different tropes with the Western.
Exactly.
It'd be very cool. Well, no, the reason I like Westerns like the show Into the West, because they don't do any twists. They're like, this is what it is. And just the idea of the Wild West is so cool to me, because it's this unexplored, open world that's anything can really happen, and it's a great setting for any story, because any story can take place. There's no restrictions on the story, just like there was no restriction on life.
Right.
If you want to tell a story and it takes place in the city, well, then it's like, well, that certain plot points might not make sense, because like, well, there can't be this big car chase because there's traffic at 5 p.m. or, well, no, the police would be all over that, or kind of thing. But when you set it in the Wild West, just anything can happen. All restraints are off. There's nothing holding it back. And that's why I think the Wild West is a great setting for these things. And I think people are nostalgic, even if they didn't experience that themselves. They're still getting nostalgic for the idea of a simple life, where their only worries is, life gets so hard for people that they would rather worry about bear attacks and outlaws than worry about social media drama.
All the stress they have just on a daily basis.
Yeah, which I get that. It's been a thing with me. I'm like, I just want to be a cowboy. I just want to go away, be a cowboy.
So have you ever ridden a horse?
I've ridden a horse, but not like ridden a horse. Like, I've been on top of a horse while it moved. And like my uncle like held a rope and like guided the horse around.
Yeah, I did that one time, and it was definitely not my thing. My horse was like, "Oh, this woman doesn't know what she's doing." Turned around and went back to the barn. I'm like, "Yep, that's me." I don't want to, I guess, show my control over the animal. I've just felt so overwhelmed, just so big, and it was not my thing at all.
You can get a little pony.
I'm sure I could. I don't know if I'd even care.
That would be creative adventures. We go horse riding. I want to go horse riding.
You do want to do that?
Yeah, okay. And then I also I shot a revolver before. That's the coolest thing in the world.
Did you get the kickback?
It wasn't a very powerful revolver, so no. I did shoot a powerful revolver one time. I did get the kick. I've shot plenty of guns. I used to hunt. I don't really like to hunt anymore. Last time I went hunting, I was kind of like there, and I was like, I don't want to kill that. Like, there was the deer, and I'm like, I don't want to kill it.
Right. I couldn't.
Nah, and then I just put the gun down, and I'm like, I'm going to watch it.
Also not my thing. But I teach in Denham Springs, Louisiana, where everybody comes from a family that knows somebody who hunts, if it's not their family who hunts.
Or if it's not them who hunts.
Yeah, I was very surprised, because I started teaching in that community, even though I grew up in the neighboring town, Walker, which is now a city as well. But I was surprised that so many girls were so excited about hunting. They are just as excited about it as the guys. And when I was growing up in Walker, it was just the men, the guys, the boys that went out and hunted. So now, you got girls showing pictures of their first buck. And I have a girl this year who we spotted a roach actually in my classroom. And she was like jumping up because she wanted to come kill it. Just the idea of the kill was just so exciting to her.
People have
come kill the roach! Ah! It's just so interesting to me.
That's
just
insane.
To see it in anybody, but I guess for me it was just kind of this twist in my head that the girls are so excited about hunting.
That's insane.
It's interesting.
Somebody, like, But here's the thing, I'm saying it's the same, but if you told me a guy did that, I probably wouldn't be like, that's insane.
It really is strange. We've been talking about that a lot in my class, too. The idea of how you expect things or don't expect certain things from gender. And that's a different conversation.
In your theater class or your law class?
It was actually in my law class.
Cool.
And I'll come back to that if we have time, but I feel like that's kind of going a way different direction than we are right now.
Well, so. I've been, speaking of your law class, I forgot to tell you, I've been talking with Casey, actually, a student of yours.
Yes, she's in both, actually.
She's in both theater and law class, yeah. And she was talking about how the law class is really fun, but the reason I bring that up is because we were talking because she was promoting the podcast for us. So I like slid up on her story. We had never talked before, and I said, thank you. And then we just started talking, and I asked her, have you talked to Donna yet about illustrating things for us? She said yes. And I just realized we haven't really talked about that in a while.
We really haven't.
But I'm happy that you talked with her about getting that illustrated because...
Well, we should back up. What David is talking about is that we wrote the, I guess we call it a fable? Kind of an educational children's story. It's inspirational, not educational. Called The Timid Crepe Myrtle. And it was something that was very much inspired by us just starting this business. It was the story that kept me up at night when nothing ever keeps me awake. I sleep like a rock. I don't have any trouble sleeping. And so we had asked a friend to illustrate it, and she had wonderful ideas, but not enough time. And so then I have another student, Casey, that David's talking about, who has drawn lots of stuff that I've seen, and amazing artists. And so I said, hey, you want to draw some pictures for us? And she, like everyone else, is really, really busy. But I've seen a few ideas from her.
Good. It's good. So you like what she's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to take pictures of it next time to show you because...
Okay.
I want to make sure that the vision of the two characters, the two human characters, because there's a lot of plant characters is interesting, but it's a children's book. So, yeah.
Okay, idea. Timid Crepe Myrtle, but it's a Western.
Okay, let's go there. So
it's about a tumbleweed.
Well, the tumbleweed would be a character, right?
The timid tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed. Well, not even timid. The tumbleweed would be the outlaw.
The outlaw. You're right.
Always rolling through.
Always rolling through.
Okay,
yeah.
So then the stable, like the oak, that's the sheriff.
Yeah.
Or the priest. I'm not sure which. Yeah, the crepe myrtle.
I don't know. I was just joking.
I'm gonna go there with you. I mean, hey.
I know. I meant like, okay, so scratch our whole idea. Let's make it a Western.
Okay.
And what if it's a cowboy movie, and starring Clint Eastwood as the timid crepe myrtle?
Go ahead. I want to make my day.
That was Dirty Harry?
I don't know. Not a Western, but that's definitely Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, well, Dirty Harry's a Western, but in the real world.
Well, yeah,
in the real world. Like the Western wasn't the real world, the modern world. What have you been into? Because I like talking about, the reason I bring up Westerns and Star Trek is that's the creative things that I'm into right now, and that's where my creative brain is going. Like, I want to create Westerns, and I want to talk about and discuss these things that I like having to do with entertainment. So that's why this podcast goes from talking about Fake Rape to talking about Clint Eastwood. And so
yeah, I'm throwing in some gender roles.
What are you? What kind of entertainment are you consuming right now?
Entertainment. I was watching America's Got Talent, but it went off, and so I haven't been watching a lot of TV. Entertainment-wise, I guess what we need to do instead is think about my day. So I'll just give you, or my week even. So
is your week staying creative?
It's turned lately into work, but it's work for us. So
good.
Yeah. So David and I, when we started our business, we both have the goal to be able to let it support us, and so we've hired a partner online to help us with all the ideas of like SEO and having an online presence that people are aware of, and that's the kind of thing that I think David is focused more on than I am. But I want to make money, and so I joined an affiliate program where I am going to learn how to set up my own business through this other partner, and he has his whole sequence of educational programs to help people do what we're doing, which is business online. And the way his affiliate program works is they pretty much do all the promoting, but as long as you can drive traffic to it and get them to buy stuff, then you get half of the commission on everything you sell. It's just going through the steps of learning how to set all that up, which, I mean, I'm not a business person. I'm 54. I've been teaching for 31 years. I'm having to baby steps. So I'll come home and watch some of the modules from him and then go take a nap. I mean, you know, I've got a whole full day of school and teaching, and then I have my family life and my home life, and then I'm also doing this business with David, and I'm also trying to set up this other business to make the business that David and I want to see come to fruition, have money to do it. Not to mention I need to pay my bills, and my son's in college, and my daughter will be in college in 2 years. So money is something that I need to grow, and I'm working on that. But creatively, I guess I can jump into something David mentioned before the podcast, and I'm always creative at school. That's just what my life is. So theater class, next week we're doing our haunted house. So I guess when this when this posts, it'll be the week up.
Yeah,
it'll be the Sunday
haunted house
after.
would have already happened.
Yeah, it'll be the Sunday after. So haunted house is interesting. Before I taught theater class, I had the theater club, or I called it drama club. And one Halloween I thought we really need to do something. And I sat with some friends and we threw around ideas, and we thought, man, we should really do a haunted house. That'd be so cool. And then we started thinking, well, wait, you have to do this, and how do we do that? And I mean, the logistics of it was just way overwhelming for our club after school. And so it turned into a Halloween movie night. And it was a good idea. Not that many people came because there was a home LSU game, but that's another story. But it was just the idea that the drama club hosted something that was for us, and it was something that we probably would have continued, but the drama club itself fizzled out after that. I think it was actually the next year I was just like, you know, I can't work with just 10 people. We just don't have enough people, and I gave it up. But when I had a theater class and a teacher teaching theater tech, the idea of a haunted house became much more realistic. And I have never been a horror movie fan. I mean, I have watched them when I was maybe in my teens, but it is not my genre.
I love them.
I'm glad. Maybe one day you can help me understand them. I don't like to be scared like that, and that's the kind of stuff that will get in my head, and will just that will keep me up at night, and it has, which is another reason.
Yeah.
You know,
me too. Like, I don't like the jump scare. Like, I don't like gore or anything like that. I think horror movies are this really weird piece of film media where I feel like a lot of times directors can be restricted unless you're like a big deal where you're like you can do whatever you want. But I feel like it's kind of like in Hollywood, the movies that are coming out, they're all part of a franchise and they're all kind of formulaic in many ways. And yes, horror movies can be very formulaic, but I feel like there's this playground just to do really, really unique things that other genres can't always do. Like, yeah, you can make a really, really unique crime drama, but in that crime drama, can you have this scene where like these crazy things happen that would happen in a horror movie, and like it and like that. And I just really I think like I would love to make a horror movie just to make like, what is the weirdest thing I can put on screen? I think a horror movie genre is a really good canvas just to do these things that it's a really good place to stretch your creative muscles. And so I like seeing that on screen. Yeah. And that's why I'm a fan of them.
The personally. Psychological aspect and even going into the like,
and how dark can people get? I like to know that. Yeah,
and the different types of creatures that people create to scare other people. It similar stretching of the mind reminds me of Inception, which I recently finally watched. It's interesting that it took me so long to watch it because I love the idea of being aware in your dreams, and they explore that in every possible way that I think anybody could. It's a very cool movie. So I think that you can do something that's creative and kind of in another zone without blood and gore, but the blood and gore and the creep factor and what can I do to scare you, and what does lurk in your darkest mind, that is definitely unique to horror. And I guess that's why I don't like it, because I don't want to explore what lurks in the deepest part of my brain. I think I don't know. I always look at the positive. I'm always on the other side of that. But to get back to the haunted house story, so the haunted house story is that the teacher that works with me for tech, neither one of us are really into horror, and neither one of us had ever even been to a haunted house, much less, tried to put one together. So first year was kind of an experiment, and we only ran it for one night, and it was a huge success. Huge. Like, everybody who came through loved it, and I was very excited. Being part of it. Yeah, that's right. So from your perspective, what were the challenges of putting it together? That was the first year that we, that was the first thing we ever did as a theater department.
that was the first thing we ever did as a theater department. What instantly comes to mind was that how successful it was and how we weren't prepared for how successful it was. And so the line was full the entire night. Mm-hmm. Dead coming through. Like it felt like every time we brought somebody in, the line filled up even more. Because the way we had it set up was like, okay, we send in a group, and then like 2 minutes later send in another group. So they're not, because so the format of that one was, and I don't know, I haven't been a part of what you're doing this year, so maybe it's changed, maybe it's not. But you had a host, and like the host took a group and led them through the haunted house. Well, some haunted houses, like it's like a free, like constantly flowing. There's no host, but we had a host thing set up, and I got to be one of the hosts, which is really, really badly what I wanted to do, because I was like, I want to do something theatrical, and I made up this whole character, and I was like, I'm Scary Skelly, and it was ridiculous, but I loved it, and that was one of the first things I ever did. That was like, I really went out there, like I put myself out there in a big way of like, I took a risk of making this character, like and sticking to it. Even when at first it was kind of like cringy, I stuck to it and like bunkered down. I was like, no, Scary Skelly, and eventually it really caught on with the rest of the theater department. And then the more it caught on with film, the more confident I got in it, the better it worked with the people coming in. And I was just wearing this like skeleton morph suit and then a suit over it, and I was, boo, I'm scared. I talked like this, I'm Scary Skelly, and it's just this just weird thing, and it was a big risk that I took, so that was cool. That was a challenge for me. It was like, what am I gonna do now? How do I do this? Like that was the first thing we did as a theater department. So that's the first thing I ever did theatrical.
Ever acting at all?
Ever acting at all? Yeah, and I was like, wow, this is really and then like, having to improvise and while also keeping everything on track. Like I was like really in control of the flow of it. Like I was like, I lead people and I have to make sure we're going at a good enough pace and for the scares to hit at the right times and making sure I'm saying the right thing to signal to certain people like, okay, your eyes are closed but we're walking past you, so jump scare now. Another challenge was also just like we weren't prepared for how complex it was to put something like that together, and it wasn't organized at all.
Well, and then we also didn't realize that it would be so difficult for our actors. So everybody who was on stage the whole time. And so what we've learned from that is to double cast. So now every witch, every vampire, every whatever, this year we have nuns, we have somebody to play the role, 2 different people to play every role for 2 different nights. So we also expanded to 2 nights. So what we definitely, the growing pains occurred, and we learned a whole lot from the first one. The second one we were able to do for 2 nights, and that's pretty cool. We had a huge crowd both nights, and we even had a home football game the first night, and people came over after the football game. That was kind of cool. This year, we're doing it on another Friday where there's an away football game. So maybe when all our support groups come back to school, they'll want to come through, and we'll just kind of see how that goes. But we have changed the theme, or we have a specific theme this year. I don't know if we ever really did, but Stranger Things is just such a huge hit, and I'm sure
I love Stranger Things.
I'm sure haunted houses across the nation or across the world this year are going to do a Stranger Things theme. So we have the Upside Down recreated and the ideas from Stranger Things throughout, and that's going to be cool. And the setup is much more organized this year. I'm impressed with just all of how my classes and Ms. Freneau's classes are coming together with all that. But one thing I have added that I didn't ever really do, because I really didn't know how, is to start getting the actors ready to do it. So just like you were thrown in cold, I didn't know how to tell you how to do that.
Yeah.
But we actually found online, and here in Baton Rouge, or close to where we live is Baton Rouge, there is the 13th Gate, which is one of the most well-known haunted houses in the United States. And they actually have a YouTube channel called Beyond 13th Gate. So we've been watching some of their tips and tricks and saying things that I know, but not necessarily have voiced to the actors, just haunt tips and things like how to keep yourself healthy about your voice and about staying hydrated and, stretching your muscles before you start crouching every 5 seconds. Because we had some people who were so sore after their run.
Because they're like, we had like people who were like doing the upside down crab walks coming at you, people who are on the floor jumping and screaming. Like, this was a really intense haunted house. This isn't a kiddie thing. That's what people weren't prepared for that.
They were not.
How, like, it was freaking scary. It was intense
to be real
stuff.
Deal.
People, like, because we had really talented people. And who, like, and that's actually, I didn't feel like the haunted house was a good place to be theatrical or to express and do what we wanted to do, but I was very wrong. I think that doing the haunted house, like, opened a lot of us
it absolutely
to
did.
Like acting, like,
yes.
to being this, to like completely letting yourself go, just to be a weird demon creature who's like doing weird stretchy things. So that's why people's muscles were sore, because they were just. And also just standing there for hours.
There were a few places where people had to crouch before their scare.
Oh, and crouch down to jump out.
Yeah, and crouch and jump, like all night long. Because it's like
sitting
crowd
on
comes,
the floor all night
act,
long.
pause, act, pause, act, pause, act, pause. It's really, anybody who's done a haunted house knows what I mean. You're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. But you got to always be ready to be on. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I liked hearing what you were saying about your character. It makes me think about just character development in general, which is something we talk about a lot in here. You were talking about trying different things with the acting, but I feel like that could translate into writing as well, because you have a character and you know you want to write this character, and you start writing stuff down and it just doesn't seem to go anywhere, but you know in your mind this is somebody you want to write about. So the more you just stick with it and maybe put them in different situations or let other people read it, because that's the feedback you were getting, I think that it just takes the perseverance. You get the idea, and you just keep working on it, and eventually it will come.
And you have to stick to what you see in your mind, and like what this could be funny, or this could work.
Yes.
You have to give it something that's like a weird quirk, and stick to it, and make it really work. With writing, like one of my characters that I write, just for an example, top of my head, is my Jamie Summerborn, and this novel, this book series I'm trying to write. It's a fantasy thing, and
I go back and say this book series I'm writing.
Yes. This book series I'm writing. It's this fantasy story. It's about a guy named Jamie Summerborn, and it's called Summerborn. And I'll talk more about that at a different time as it progresses. But just for an example, I like to use D&D character sheets, Dungeons and Dragons character sheets to develop these things. And one of the flaws I put on there was like, he's really afraid of spiders. It's this thing where like I had to stick to it. I'm like, he's afraid of spiders, and like a spider pops up and he's like, and it's like, that's kind of dumb and cringy, but you stick to like, he's afraid of spiders, and then it starts to work because it comes up again, and it's like another situation where he's afraid of spiders, and these things that seem like they won't work, you have to stick to it. And better example, when we're writing our plays, get your stank on my face.
I was thinking that exact thing when you were just talking. You must have sent that thought to me. We've talked about it before. This character who we needed a catchphrase, and it was get your stank on my face. It was a very a ghetto hood type character.
Yeah, very hood type character. And when she first says it, it's like
about a stinky boy.
It's about a stinky boy, and it's kind of like, that's a weird line, but you have to stick to it, be confident, do it again. And then she says it again and again. And even if you're reading the script and people were like, you say it a lot, you have to be confident. And you have to do this with me, and I have to do this with you, where it's like, we're confident in what it is we're writing, and we're saying, no, it's gonna work. We talked about this with Swearingen on our interviews with him, about he's working with his editor, and his editor wants to change things, and he has to put his foot down sometimes and say, no, this is what it's gonna be. And then the more confident you are about it, the more it develops, and the better it becomes for everybody else as well. And that's not just with your acting, but with your writing. The more confident you are about this is what this is, the more it resonates with people who are reading it and experiencing it and seeing it happen. And you have to, because if you falter at all, if you deliver a line half-heartedly, then the audience isn't going to get it. It could be the worst line in the world, but if you say it with everything that you have, it's going to convey to the audience. The same thing with the writing is, whenever you're writing, you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid of the words. You have to write them down with full confidence and be like, this is what this is. And that's the only way that it's going to resonate with any audience. Yeah. If you don't believe in it, then no one else is. Yeah. And you have to believe in your characters. You have to believe that your characters are are interesting and good characters, and that what you're writing is worth it and it's going to work, and maybe you take a risk with that character or take it in a way that people don't really like. You know, people get really attached to characters, especially like an ongoing series, and they're reading a book and they're like, no, he wouldn't do that. You have to be confident and be like, I'm not saying this is going to work every single time.
Right.
There are plenty of times when writers have done something, I'm like, that's stupid. And
well,
I still think it's stupid, but I would think it's even more stupid if you didn't convince me. Like, convince me that it's... If you're so confident in it, then convince me that that's what it is and that's what's happening. And then the character develops with that and becomes something that is iconic.
Mm-hmm. So the idea that we talked about with Swearingen, with letting the characters tell their own story, that's so fascinating. I've seen several episodes specifically of Oprah where she interviews authors, and the authors will be talking about something just miserable that happened in the story, just awful. It's so hard to read, and they'll say things to Oprah like, I just didn't know that was going to happen to that character. And Oprah's like, you wrote the book. What do you mean you didn't know it was going to happen? But it's like they inhabit you and they say, hey, here I am. Let me tell you my story. And that I do have to go back. Well, not go back to. I have to say will only happen if you dedicate yourself to it. You have to sit down every day if you're a writer. So if you're a writer, you have to write. And that's something that I've been struggling with time-wise because I have several things just in the queue, so to speak, that I need to either go back to and look at or start writing or finish writing. One in particular right now that is in my head is the play we're going to do second semester. So you were asking me about what I've been doing creatively. So creatively, in my advanced theater class, we have cast our first play, which will be in November. So we're trying to get time to work on the haunted house, but also read for our parts and start developing our different voices and our thoughts and our ideas. And but at the same time, it's like, oh, that other play's not written yet. Better find time for that. So I've definitely got to find some time to get back to that. And just... I
saw the cast list. Casey, we were talking about her, who you're writing the second play with. She showed me what the cast list was, and interesting. It's kind of hard. It's sad that now we're at a point in the theater where I don't know everybody. Right. So I see these names I don't recognize, so I can't be as excited, even more so than I did last year. Yeah. I really thought, and I just really kind of assumed that a student of yours, Jason, was going to be Vlad. I mean, you assumed the same thing. It just felt right to me for some reason. And he's not. I don't remember what he is. I don't remember who is. That was interesting.
Well, what happened with that is there were so many people that were good. And I mean, it's theater too. So they're all people who have had me before in the theater class. And when they auditioned, I just was overwhelmed. And I told the class, I'm like, guys, I have a problem. I said, I'm having so much trouble casting this play because y'all are all so good. They're beaming. But it's the truth. And so I said, please just write down for me what you want to play. And I'll think about if I agree, because I don't always agree that somebody who auditions for a role should be the role. And Jason, as long as I've taught him, this is my third year with Jason, he has always said, put me wherever. And he means it. He's not one of those people who's going to carry a grudge and go, I didn't get the lead. And he is actually going to play a role where it's a teenage boy who's kind of the bully of the main character.
That's right.
And one of the jokes is that the vampire in the play who befriends Alex, who is our, kind of down and out teen, the vampire defends Alex by putting Jason in a trance and telling him, actually the character's name is Jared. He puts Jared in a trance and says,
I forgot about that.
He says, you will, leave this boy alone. And so right before the trance ends, or the hypnotism ends, Alex yells, and you're going to do a crazy dance every time I say the word like. And so Jason, as long as he's been in the theater department, has always danced on stage. He is just a natural dancer, just hilarious. Just everybody loves the way he dances. And so he, and actually the boy who wrote the play with me, Cameron, when they auditioned for Jared, the entire room was just like on the floor, just watching these boys trying to deliver lines while they're just dancing all over the place. And not everybody can do the dance part, and it's just such a big joke. It's such a good visual, and they're just going to steal the show. Just every time they're on stage, they're gonna be dancing, and
can't wait for that.
That's going to be so fun.
That's good. That's really cool. That's a relatively speaking smaller part.
Right. The number of lines is small,
but it's gonna steal the show. Just like, Jason's stolen the show a couple times.
Oh, most certainly.
Doing the dancing thing, but you were just talking about people. You don't always agree with where they want to go.
Right.
And you have to have that director's mindset of like, I see you there, and
and I've had pushback on that.
You've had pushback, but you have to stick confident with what you know is going to work, and then it does. And the truth is, like, if as an actor you can't get a grudge when that thing happens, because you never know what kind of role you're going to end up in that will steal the show. Like, I always say this too, like, there's no role that's in the play that doesn't need to be there.
That's right.
If it didn't need to be there, we wouldn't put it there. It's there for a reason, even if it is just for one joke. If we're putting a character in for one joke, it's a really funny joke, and you get to be a part of that joke, and you gotta embrace it and make the best of it.
I have a fantastic example. So the play that we've talked about that I wrote with another student said that actually has been accepted for publication, which I still can't believe. I'm so excited about. Well, actually, I can believe. I'm so excited about it. But when we were writing that play, we just needed a secretary. Somebody needed to come in and tell the villain, somebody's on the phone, and there was just very little thought into it. Just like, she's just in and out. We just need somebody it's a utilitarian role. Mm-hmm. And so our girl that played it, I mean, she took it over. She did the little prancy walk with her butt sticking out.
I remember that.
And she added the little accent, Mr. Dante, kind of with her nose just up. Just I remember that. So funny. So every single time, I should only say the 3 times that she was on stage, I mean, people remember that part. So when you're writing a play, you're gonna need to tell the story. And, not everybody, but many people who audition want to be the lead because they have the most lines. But if you want to be the most memorable, and I've said this many times in audition, it's like you don't need to have a ton of lines, because if you're on stage the whole time, the audience just gets used to you being there. You can pop in as the humorous character, and our Jared in the play that we're going to be doing with Vlad and Alex definitely will steal this show. They're going to remember that. The people will definitely walk out of the gym, as it were, saying that Jared character danced all over the place. That was so funny. It is. It's just hilarious. It's so much fun.
I have an interesting question, a dilemma to propose to you. So, every role has its purpose, and you can make the most of every single role, and you can steal the show, and you can be a big part of it, even if it's a small role. We had in our high school in the test, there was a teacher who had like 3 lines, but they were hilarious, stole the show, and you had these small characters. But I was thinking, like, what came to my head was, at what point does somebody who's in that small role have to make sure that they don't steal the show because they're not the lead?
I hear what you're saying.
How do you find that balance?
Because it
seems
focus.
Yeah. But even if you're drawing focus in a funny way, like I'm not going to call anybody out, but that was a problem we had with when making High School Another Day and the Test. Is you had these characters in the background at their desk, and during rehearsal, it's like act natural. So you're supposed to be writing, but then act natural, you kind of take it too far, and you start talking to the people around you. Even if it's like fake talking, it's still drawing attention. So you have to tell them, calm down. And that's one thing, just to not draw attention. But what about when it's like a side character is doing something so funny, and it's good, but you have to tell them to stop? Have you ever encountered that sort of thing where it's like, this is really good, but you can't do it that much because there's a scene going on that needs to, or there's something more important that needs to be happening here. You can't do it for that long.
The bottom line for that is the story, because the whole reason you're on stage is that you're getting a story across. So if part of the storytelling can handle the laughter, that's okay. But yeah, there are definitely things people have done before, and I don't know exactly who you were referring to for Another Day, Another Test.
Well, it wasn't exactly. It was just like.
Has that ever happened? Yeah. There are very few times, and I tell my actors this all the time, that I ask people to bring it down a notch. Almost always I say act well beyond what you think is necessary, because I'm just trying to get expression and volume out of people. And normally when they go as far out as they think they can, it's still not as much as I really want. Right. So it's very, very, very seldom that somebody will go so far that I'm like, woo, you need to dial that in a bit, babe. I have had to say it, and sometimes it's just people just being silly or adding something that really isn't true to the character. I've had people do that. They think they're funny, and they're
trying to like
trying to steal the show, and it just doesn't fit. So I will direct against that. But for the most part, if somebody's adds a bit and it's funny and it doesn't take too much away from the scene and the story we're telling, I feel like that as long as we're working together and you're not like, look at me, look at me, look at me, that it'll most of the time work.
You never sacrifice storytelling.
Never. The story is the thing.
That's the thing I've always stuck with too. Like, a big thing is like subverting expectations. Like, you want to do that, but I've always said it's like you can subvert expectations as long as you're not sacrificing a good story to do that. You know, there's certain things like you subvert expectations, but if you can subvert expectations without sacrificing good storytelling, then that's when it works, because you still go, oh my god, that was a great storytelling, and I got the subversion of expectations. If you just get the subversion of expectations, doesn't work.
There's no reason to tell the story.
There's no reason. So the point is never sacrifice storytelling. And that's a great answer to the dilemma that I didn't have an answer to, of like, well, what do you do when that's a problem, when these people and you have people like that? If you have to tell somebody to tone it down, I feel like that's not really a bad thing necessarily. It's not. It's like you're doing. You got it. You got where I need. You got it. You got where I need you to be. Just come down a little bit. Like, I think there was a scene when Abram, who played
the narrator, and this one he played the athlete.
The athlete. I forget his name. The athlete's name. The jock, but he was looking for his script.
Yeah, so he picked up the desk.
He picked up the desk. He was like, "Where's the script?" And he picked up the desk on stage, and like to look under it, and it was like,
"That's kind of much, babe."
That's really funny, but like, so many things will go wrong. You pick up the desk and accidentally drop it on stage and break somebody's skull and
knock somebody in the head with it as you're picking it up. Yes.
Yeah. You had to tell me to tone it down. At this point, it was too late because it was already happening on stage. But when I made my epic leap of faith and I jumped a little too hard, a little too high.
People do get into it. And I will say, I have directed people not to do things, and they do it anyway. So I feel like my job as a director is to make the production as good as it can be based on what I see and what the actors are able to do. And so by the time the curtain opens, or in our case, the lights come on, because we don't have a curtain, and I'm sitting in the audience, I feel like it's not mine anymore. You know, and I just like, this is what they did with it.
Yeah, you don't go in the back.
I don't.
You've never once stood up from your chair.
No, I mean, I'm watching it. Yeah. It's like my job is to teach you how to do it. So then I'm going to sit and watch what I taught you how to do.
I have before. I've stood up out of the chair sitting next to you. I'm like, I'm sorry, I gotta go fix this. But I mean, it must take so much strength to be like, I'm sitting and I'm watching.
But I don't feel it like it. I mean, it's the joy for me. It's the joy because I've put in all the time and effort that I do, and I put in a lot. I'm very dedicated to what I do, but I don't do it for the glory of myself. I do it so that I can help people learn something. And so if I'm going to sit in my chair and watch it, I don't care what happens. There was one time I did wait and go backstage because something pretty big, an actor got very upset. And I wanted to make sure that actor was okay. But I didn't jump up and go as soon as that character went off stage because I want to see the show. I want to see it. I mean, if I'm going to put in that much time and effort, then I'm going to see it. And I did speak to that actor at halftime. At intermission, I got football on my brain, y'all. But, and I think that what I said really helped because it was like, you didn't do anything wrong. Everything's fine. We were actually glad you did that. And, you know, it was just a panic moment that
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the first time for Dinky Springs.
Springs, yeah.
So, and then I will also say that I have sat in the audience, and this is before I even knew you, David, when I taught at my other school. I think I've told the story in class many times, but I'm watching a show that I wrote, and it was the first play, actually. And the curtain started closing because we had a theater, we used a theater where the curtain actually closed, and I'm like, they're not supposed to be closing the curtain. They're not supposed to be. Oh my God!
Like in the middle of a scene.
No, they closed the curtain because they skipped a scene, and I just went, oh wow! They just skipped the whole scene. And what I found out later in class was that when that happened, somebody was like, oh, and they realized what happened. So they went ahead and did the scene that came after the curtain closing, and then they put the scene they skipped on right after. They took care of it because I had explained. I'm going to be sitting there watching y'all. I mean, if you're not going to learn your lines or if you're whatever, you have to deal with whatever the situation is. So somebody backstage just took control and said, okay, this happened, so you do this and we're going to do that. And you know, And
that's happened with us before.
Right.
It's very impressive when that happens.
Yeah, and I understand that would never happen if I was back there.
Yeah.
I mean, and my job is to teach you how to do it.
But also you're teaching us, and what a
real world
great learning opportunity
Yes.
whenever you're not back there, and the state, and at this point, you're so good at making people actually care about the show, and things are going wrong, and it's like, we had a similar situation with High School Another Day and the Test.
Somebody went on at the wrong time.
Went on at the wrong time, did a
Yes.
completely different scene. It was like, what's happening? And it was like, I don't remember what happened. I want to say that I took control and fixed it, but I honestly don't remember.
I'm sure a lot of people were like, we gotta do this, we gotta fix it, we gotta...
Yeah. But I remember that I had like a whole, like, I made like a whole, like, scene, like, description and, like, keeping it in order, because it was a very all over the place play.
Yeah.
So I felt that it was good. And I like, we took it, like, it was like, what is happening? And, like, we took control. A couple people were like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. Got it? Okay, you go tell them all this. We're doing this, this, and this. That's what we're doing. Hey, radio the tech over there. We're doing this scene and this scene. And then problem solved. And what a great learning opportunity to do that. You know, I always say, like, it's great. I'm sure there are plenty of students who would be like, duh, Ms. Vanoss should be back there because she needs to tell us what to do. But it's like, yeah, I'm glad you feel that way. And I mean, maybe that's like maybe other high schools do it like that, sure. But what this is a unique learning opportunity for the people who don't feel that way, for the people who are okay and willing to put in that little effort there. That's a great opportunity. When something goes wrong, it's almost like, yes, I get to fix it. You know, it's almost like you get a little satisfying thing at the end. And the audience never even knows something went wrong.
That is exactly right.
The audience never even knows. The panic thing you were just talking about with Nikki Springs, I talked to plenty of audience members. They had no idea that was even a problem.
Nope.
They thought that was part of the show. It just worked out.
The people on stage found a way to handle it, and they got everybody back on track, and nobody even knew.
And it's impressive.
It is
very
impressive.
Cool to see, and it's at the beginning of the year when going into your class, nobody would have been able to do that, but because they were in your class, they learned these things. They didn't even realize they were learning them probably, but just learning confidence in themselves to do that, to have the confidence to make a call.
Yeah.
To just make a call on stage. And that's something we've learned about before. I remember specifically talking about is like on stage, Lester, who we've interviewed before, whenever he would talk to our class, he would say, you have to make a call and make decisions. Acting is making decisions. And that cycles all the way back to Scary Skelly and the developing your characters. And you have to make calls and have the confidence in yourself and make the decisions. And follow through on them. And that's the only way anything's going to work. In writing and acting and directing, anything.
And some of what you were saying kind of in a joking way in my head, like, oh, that's the Donna method. So
the Donna method,
and
indeed.
I guess it's not a joke, but we also, David and I both have been extremely busy since school started. And we knew we would be. We started the podcast in the summer when we both had all this free time. And we had grand plans of how many hours we were going to work together every week. And I think we both secretly knew it was going to be a push to get together, but we do still have in mind to create our class called Concept to Curtain Call, how to write and stage your own play using the Donna method. So I don't ever want anybody to think that I feel like my way is any better than anyone else's. It's just an alternative. So one thing that I have always done as a teacher is just treat my students with a lot of respect and admiration. And I think they feel that. They understand that I'm not trying to stomp them down or ever make them feel like they did something wrong, or that only I am in charge, or that only I am right. And I know that doesn't work for everybody at all.
You're angry at anybody.
Right.
You don't ever... That's another big part of the Donna method I even thought about when there's writing, but there's also the teaching and the directing and everything that has to do with that you don't put that kind of pressure. You don't put any pressure on the students, and you make them, you express what you want to express, that you want the play to be good and everything, but this is also like you don't put any pressure on them. You let things grow and develop naturally and become what they're going to become, and you accept it, and so do the students, and that almost always is going to turn out okay.
Well, it's okay if you let it be.
Yeah, so, if you let it be how it is going to be.
If you're watching the play and every other person skipping a line, you can still see it's a learning experience, and that for me actually was a learning experience. My second play I directed when I was at Lehigh, it was horrible in rehearsal. one of our leads just backed out on us maybe 2 weeks before, or maybe even a week before. I don't remember what it was. And watching it on stage was so painful. I mean, I was just watching these kids, and they were trying to get this story across, and there were 2 leads, and one of the girls kept whispering the line to the other one who had filled in at the last second, and it was hard, and it just broke my heart. It just absolutely I was just so devastated. And then a few people talked to me and said things like, well, it's only a high school play. And I'm like, oh my God, don't ever say that to me. Oh, yeah. What are you saying? But in retrospect, it's like, I understand that it's not, that it's unimportant, but it's an experience. And so the experience,
they're students. Yes,
the experience was, we had a rehearsal process. We did the best we could. And I mean, it was my crucible. It was really difficult for me to go through that fire. And when I came through the other side, I was like, I just got to chill out, y'all.
That's what I was about to say. You got through it. The play.
Yes.
It happened. Like, the play is going to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you've learned, obviously, through that.
Mm-hmm.
And that you make very clear to your students while we're getting the play ready to go, is that, like, if you mess up a line, the audience is still watching.
Yes.
They're still watching, and they want to see something happen. Like,
right.
You don't get to press pause,
mm-hmm.
and you're going to get through it. Eventually, the scene will end, and the next one will start.
Right.
And it'll keep going forward. And you just got to get through it, and in any way you can. That's why at the beginning of your class, like, for the first, like, months, we just only do improv games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to make us funny at improv. It's just to show us that, like, because I don't think I was ever very good at improv.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did get good at was making a scene happen with whatever I was given. Even if it wasn't a very good scene, like, what I definitely learned was, like, okay, here's what this is what's happening right now, and I just found out about it right now. Which might be something which can relate to, okay, so this person, what's happening right now is this other person with me forgot her lines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what's happening right now. What do I do now?
Yes.
And you learn how to do that, and you get through the scene, and the next scene comes on, and the play continues.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for High School Another Day, Another Test, there was a scene where we had, I think, 3 people on stage, and there was a girl who knew her lines, and she knew her cue lines, and everybody was thinking, why is she not talking? But she was waiting for her cue line. And there was a long pause. I think it was like a 30-second pause.
Yeah.
It was long.
Which 30 seconds on stage is an infinity amount of time.
Really, really long. And I don't remember exactly what occurred. I just know those 3 actors stood there and just looked at each other. And they just kept looking at each other. And people actually in the audience commented to me. And they said things like, you need to tell them that when that happens, and I'm like, I do tell them that.
Yeah.
I said, the reason I think that occurred is because there was a line that needed to be said, and it wasn't. And so there was no improv happening there. It was like, this line should have been said. And so when the girl didn't say her line, the other actors were kind of thinking she needs to just go ahead and talk, whereas she was thinking, well, it's not my turn.
Yeah,
and nobody just picked it up and ran with it. So you just, at some point, I mean, I've seen my actors, like, say each other's lines. I mean, I've taught that. Like, in Camp Dinky Springs, one of my boys saw that somebody had missed a line, and he jumped up and said it. He even brought it up this year. He's actually going to be one of the leads in the play we're doing now. And he said, I hope that didn't look so bad. I'm like, honey, you were just trying to move the scene. You saw that it wasn't being spoken, so you got up and said it. And you just have to learn how to do those things. And again, you learn it by doing it. And so here's this boy who was all concerned about a choice he made, and he tried out for Vlad and Alex. And he said, I really want to play this part because I think I'm a perfect fit. And he got the role,
Good for him.
And
it's all through the learning experiences that you do.
Right.
And it's really, and it creates great stories to tell, I remember one in High School Another Day, Another Test, sadly had this problem many times, it seems, but literally, like, it's a scene, one of my favorite scenes, Battle for the Gym. And it's 3 actors go out there. Well, one of the actors wasn't ready and was like, I'm not going out there. And I was like, what do you mean? What? He's like, I'm not. So then the other 2 are like, let us go out there. And then one of them, a good friend of mine, Matthew, he just remembered the lines that were supposed to be said. So he just did the scene. He just did it. And it was great. It was hilarious.
Nobody had any idea.
No one had any idea something was wrong because he had the confidence instilled in him to go out there and make the call, make the decision. He didn't have to run over to you and be like, okay, Don, is it okay if I do this?
Yeah.
Yes, it is okay if you do that. Use your judgment. You have to use your judgment.
I love that story about Matthew because to back up to what one of the things you, I think, said with Swearingen on last episode about how so many people that were your good friends were telling you when we were writing Another Day, Another Test, they were like, I just don't think this is going to work.
Yeah.
And Matthew, honestly, was one of the loudest people in the class saying that he really didn't like the idea. He was going to do the play because he hadn't been able to be in the first play, but he just didn't like it. And I mean, when I tell you a complete and total turnaround by the end of that play, he was like, this is the best experience I've ever had. And he came and hugged me I guess about a month later at our theater banquet, and just was so overwhelmed just the experience of being in theater. He is majoring in theater at LSU. He got a call back for the lead in the first main stage production. He ended up not getting it, but as a first year student to get a call back for an audition for the lead in a main stage production, I mean, it just is amazing where you can go. And he's in film now, I think. But I think he's majoring in film now.
Yeah.
But he was interested in the class, or he wouldn't have taken it. But he didn't really want to do this play, but just because he did, and he gave it a chance, and he got on stage, and as we just said, saved several scenes, and just loved the experience of it. Just was one of the greatest things that ever happened.
And even though he was telling us, and he's one of my best friends, he was loud in my ear telling me the problems with it, and I had to be confident through it and stick to it. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna spill some tea. Later, he's still, after he does these college plays, he comes to me and he's like, "Yeah, man, those silly high school plays." Like, no. No, sir. You don't get to act big and bad in front of your college buddies. You loved that play with all your heart.
Yes,
you don't get to talk down. You don't get to talk down about that just because big old whatever college buddy his face is over there is in the room too. No. Don't pretend that you didn't love that. Because it was a great learning. You wouldn't be here without high school Another Day, Another Test, sir.
Well, speaking of being here, and we need to wrap it up soon. I just saw that you.
We do.
It's an hour, but we did our theater banquet last year, and Matthew just comes walking in about 30 minutes into the banquet, and I just kind of looked at him, and he walked over to me. He's like, "Is it okay that I came?" I'm like, "Sure. How did you even know?" So he was at LSU, and he saw some of the group chats or theater kids posting that they were at the banquet, and he just got in his car and drove from LSU to Denham Springs.
30 to 40 minute drive.
And just decided to come be part of the banquet. So
that's great.
He might be big and bad in front of his college buddies, but he still is true to his roots.
He knows who he is.
It was nice.
I know you, Matthew.
Yeah, we know you.
Better than you know yourself.
I don't know if I'd go that far, David.
I would.
Well, I will say it was a nice surprise, and I thought it was so sweet that he showed up. That was
great to instill that in your students, and that's why I think this podcast really can be for anybody. It can be for writers and teachers. Yes. Not even just theater teachers. Any kind of teacher can take lessons from that and instill these sorts of things in their students, and it's very important to. I always tell the story, and I've really come to find that I tell it a lot more often now. Of like, in your English, the things I learned in your theater classes help me in your English classes, and every class, just to be more confident and stick through with what I'm doing, and also just your teaching style of like learning important like lessons, and also just being able to. Like I said, the Othello. Like I know the plot to Othello now
because you were creative.
Because I was creative with what I did.
Because I stayed
creative. You have to stay creative in your life.
That is what we have to do
every single day.
Let me throw in a plug. I was actually able to buy a T-shirt that we have advertised on our website through our TeePublic provider, and they had them on sale. They're normally $20, but they had a $13 sale. So I am wearing a T-shirt that says "Stay Creative," and you can have your very own. We haven't been saying our social media. I know you post it on every podcast, but our website, davidanddonnacreative.com, has a link to our shirts. So we would love people to sport our shirts and help us spread the word about our business. And then we are also, David has been more active on Instagram, which is DD. It's
stay_creative.
That's what it is.
I'm very active on there. I post all sorts of fun pictures and and just, nice things that I say. I'm like, what is Stay Creative? I had that big post of the day, like, what are we? Well, this is what we are, and I post fun pictures and an update every single time the new podcast comes out or a new blog is up, pictures up there for you guys to check out. So definitely give that a follow. That's stay_creativeDD. That's always in the descriptions of our videos, the link to that. Also, the link to our Twitter, which I haven't been as active on Twitter. Excuse me, but
Swearingen has everything connected, so we need to connect you to our David Donna Facebook and our Twitter. So everything you put on Instagram goes to both.
You're right.
We should do that.
We should do that. That's a good idea.
We will do that.
But definitely check that out there. And, like Donna was saying, go to our website, davidanddonnacreative.com. That's also in the description. Not only can you find a link to our t-shirts there, you can find our blog, all things about us, all sorts of fun stuff, everything you need to know about Stay Creative. And you can get 25 free tips of staying creative every day in your life.
Absolutely.
That's what we talk about every day, is how to stay creative in your life. That's our purpose, is to make people stay creative in their life. And 25 easy tips for you to get. Go to our website to check that out. It'll be right at the top of the page where you can click to get those 25 easy tips. Donna, do you have any final creative thoughts for the audience?
Final creative thoughts. I have to say that David and I pressed play and had zero idea where this was going, and I think it turned out okay.
I think it turned out very
That's
well.
just what we decided when we decided to do a podcast. Like, let's just talk, and that's exactly
have
what we did.
Have some creative conversations.
And I think we have. I've enjoyed it very much.
Me too. I'm happy. I was about to say happy you were here, but duh. Obviously.
Happy that we had this conversation.
Happy we had this conversation. And I'm happy that you guys were listening. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been David.
And Donna.
Stay creative.